Alright, I have another rapid game post-analysis to share. I'll get back into the habit of playing live games soon, I hope. I think that is a little bit more interesting to watch. But I did have this game today against Jal Dave 1472. And it was kind of a cool one, I thought, again. So he plays this F5, which is always kind of, I think, fun to play against. It's like seems like a pretty aggressive try for black. I'm just kind of like developing normally here. Nothing too crazy from me. Just try to find the interesting moments here. So like my plans mostly centered around trying to get this E4 push in. And he fianchettos his bishop, so he has a lot of control over e4, and I'm just trying to like facilitate it. Rook over, and let's see. Yeah, after knight d2, like it's pretty. It felt pretty sharp here because he's lining up a checkmate threat with his fianchettoed light squared bishop and his queen over here on g6. But he's also allowing me to push e4, which does block this. And so like it was yeah, it was a really interesting game. I like when they're like my opponents play boldly, and I felt like this guy really did that. So he takes and then recapture with the knight. Knight over. So here the computer gave me a pretty crazy line. What I thought it was crazy. I was mostly concerned with f2. I didn't want to give my queen up for a piece and the rook, and then open up and have my king sitting here. So I chose to defend with bishop e3. But the computer wanted knight g5, and the resulting position after you do the follow-up, I'm not sure I could have evaluated this properly with in a rapid game at my level, because it ends up looking pretty crazy after yeah, right here. I'm not sure that even if I had been able to see this far, I don't know that I would have gone for this, because my king, he doesn't feel very safe, and he doesn't maybe have enough to like checkmate me yet. And the computer says white is winning almost up a piece. It's plus 2.62 here, but I just don't think I would have gone for this. So I didn't play knight g5. I instead defended f2 with my bishop. And he takes, and I thought taking with the rook made a lot of sense here, because it's just, he's helping me do a rook lift, and his king is feeling a little exposed too. So still keeping in mind this checkmate threat. So if I move the knight here, that's just a blunder, or well, not to g5. Well, it's still a blunder, but it doesn't blunder mate. Oh yeah, I'm gonna step back just a little bit here. One thing that I wanted to get in, and I felt like I never really had time, was I have a good tactical shot, knight d6 in certain lines. It's hitting his unprotected bishop and opening up an attack on his queen. And I was never able to quite realize that in the game, because in this moment it just blunders mate, and this was like the first real chance that I think I would have had. So you have to protect against the mate, and rook sliding over is going to force the queen away from the g-file. So then the tactic just isn't really there anymore. But the game continues here, and I have it was a pretty interesting position. I was a little surprised to see that it was only plus 1.5 for white. I felt like my attack was a lot stronger than that in this position. This battery feels quite strong. His king feels pretty open. I have a rook staring at it. My knight can come to g5. And I think most of that is negated because he has this move, knight f5, with a tempo on the rook. And this is like a pretty good defensive and kind of like active attacking resource for him. So I slid out of the way of that early because his queen isn't staring at g2 anymore, so the threat of checkmate isn't there if I move the knight. And then he played knight g6 instead of knight f5, which is good for me. I was glad that he missed this. And so I'm trying to line up attacks on h7, and this was a really interesting idea from him. It doesn't quite work, but the thought is that, and maybe that's why he played knight g6 instead of knight f5, was so he could try this idea, or maybe it just happened to work out that way. But if you take with the king, he has a fork here, and he is winning an exchange, and like still technically white has advantage here, but I really didn't want to go for this. I like my rook. It's a pretty good attacker here, and luckily I was able to see this. So instead what you do is you trade down, and this comes with a tempo on the queen, so he has to respond to it. He can't just take your rook. Queen recaptures, pawn takes, and now the king can take the bishop after that kind of exchange. And the resulting position is a pretty clear advantage for white. These pawns are kind of sad, and they're already being blockaded by my knight. And I'm just up a piece. So game continues, and not a whole lot of interesting moments from here on out, just because white's winning pretty hard here, but I'll kind of go through it. So defend the knight, he doubles up. You have to defend f2. I did that just by pushing to f3. Now the rook, knight, and king are all defending it. He struck in the center, which is probably a mistake because e6 hangs and you can just take it. He tries to chase my knight around, but then c takes d5 comes, defends the knight just in time, and then you can just take on g6 too, and now this is a fork on his rooks, and that's my threat. So after takes, I decided to go for it just to keep trading down, seeing that he had a check down here, but the king is fine. I just went up. And he can evade the trade of rooks now, which is why f1 is better, because you still have tempo, I think. But if you wanted to like move, well, actually maybe he can't. I mean, maybe he doesn't have great options too, but I was a little worried about that, but he doesn't, so I just take his rook, he takes mine, and now we are 2 pawns and a piece up. And it's just kind of a matter of not doing anything too stupid in a position like this. And I did give some advantage back at one point, but never anything too drastic. I'll show you that here. So pushing, and I didn't really respect the rook enough here, and I walked right into giving my knight away, and that was my biggest mistake in this endgame, I think. But then my rook slides over to g1, and it can camp here and keep his king away from the action. And from there, it's not too hard to convert this position. You still have to want to be a little bit careful because things can go wrong. He's just checking, and I'm running up, and he plays rook h2, with the idea of getting behind my pawn. And I calculated a while here. I mean, I only had 2 minutes left. And I didn't want to go for, let's see, yeah, like if you push the pawn here, just trying to promote, I didn't see a good way around this rook harassing my king. And I think the idea is kind of interesting, so I'm going to show it. So you can take here, and then he comes back and he's threatening the pawn again. The king comes back to defend the pawn, and I just kept seeing like this check here, and I didn't go for it. I just felt like I was kind of dancing back and forth, but you just go back the other way, and then after check again, you come up to g7, and now your rook is already controlling the g file, so he's out of checks. And I missed this idea of just coming back the other way with the king, so I didn't go for it because I didn't see that. So what I did instead was check, and then after here we just trade rooks, and I saw that I could defend this pawn or I could even win this pawn. So here, and from here I calculated that if I take and he takes, this pawn can promote and he can't stop it, so that's what happened. And just a little bit of endgame technique, and he resigned here because there's nothing he can do. He can't control c8, and this pawn can just walk up uninterrupted. So that was that game. It was an interesting one. It was kind of fun. Nice to have a win streak going. I'm on 3 in a row winning, and I've updated the scoreboard. I didn't have that yesterday. This is now current 17 and 11. So I think we're maybe still slightly underrated here. Hopefully we can keep climbing. That would be really cool to see 1700, maybe 1800. Who knows? Need more practice and study for that, perhaps. But yeah, thanks if you watched this far. If you like the video, comment, subscribe. That would really be appreciated. It's just a little hobby of mine, talking about my chess games because I love chess. So yeah, thank you for watching.